today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Jason.
Katie.
Derek here.
So, guys, Dave Chappelle.
Great start, guys.
I just shouted my
Real
name so
professional.
loudly.
The fallout, the response to the decision of the Los Angeles District Attorney to not charge the attacker of Dave Chappelle with a felony is coming fast and furious from the comedy community, right? Heather McDonald, famous comedian. You must know her well, Katie, I would think. You being a famous comedian
I never made it
yourself.
quite to the Heather McDonald level,
Never quite
but
got
I
there.
have heard of her and seen her stand up, and she's very funny.
So TMZ's cameras got her out, and she was apoplectic, I think, about the reduced charges that were filed against the attacker. Isaiah Lee is his name. He was charged. He's been charged by the city attorney in Los Angeles, which, as the name sounds, is a city group. The LA District Attorneys for the county. The LA District Attorney files felonies, city attorney only misdemeanors, and the city attorneys come forward with misdemeanor charges because the LA District Attorney passed on it. Didn't think there was quite enough to charge him with a
And
felony.
you got to set the stage here. George Gascon is the district attorney. He has a reputation, ran on a platform of, I don't know how to put this gently, but soft on crime, right? I mean, he's one of the only, district attorneys. Most of the time they come out and they're like, I'm going to clean up this town. That's not how Gascon ran. Gascon ran as, we are overpopulated in our prisons. We are too hard on criminals. I'm going to soften some of this.
Well, remember, it was his election was in the wake of George Floyd and a lot of other things where there was a lot of criticism of police. And George Gascon he didn't criticize the police, but he came in and said, look, we need to reduce prison sentences, reduce the incarceration rates, and I'm going to do that by being softer on crime.
And people have been trying to recall him, right?
Yeah,
I see
there's a
celebrities
big recall
all the
effort.
time.
George Gascon, I think
Very controversial.
The likelihood
Yeah.
of him being recalled is nearing 100%. Every celebrity endorsement has come out in favor of his recall. Every personal endorsement that I've heard about has been in favor of his recall.
Although, to be fair, he ran on this and he's delivering on this. So
completely
people
agree.
voted
It
for
is
George
true.
Gascon
Yep.
on this platform and he's doing it. So I don't know why they're upset now. Maybe they didn't
now they're
really
like,
want what they
we
wished
changed
for.
our mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of crime in the city and so forth.
Sign this petition.
Putting aside the emotion of it all, Derek, there is enough. It seems to be enough evidence that he could have been charged with felonies here, Isaiah Lee, but he just wasn't. There was an election made not to, and it's such a weird thing for Gascon to do, knowing that he's facing a recall, knowing that he's likely to lose the recall, and knowing that at a high-profile moment to really throw the book at somebody.
It's baffling. I mean, this is a high-profile case. It doesn't look like a particularly hard case. You see a guy run up on stage, on video, all of this, lots of video too, because it's at the Hollywood Bowl, lunge at Dave Chappelle. They found a handheld bayonet on him. I mean, this
With
is
like a
assault
6-inch blade.
With a 6-inch blade.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an easy, as far as cases go, assault with a deadly weapon kind of felony case, and he passed on it. Maybe he did it to reinforce that message. But you're right. He's under attack, George Gascon, and is probably going to not win or get recalled. So I don't understand the move.
I don't either. Katie, I was joking earlier about your knowledge of Heather McDonald, but you're a comedian. You've been on stage before. Do you think that it's an overreaction that people are having to this fear that comedians now feel on stage, or do you think this is actually something that might impact the community?
Oh, no, I definitely think it's impacting the community. I mean, you used to have to worry about a loud heckler, maybe someone standing up, maybe somebody throwing something at you on stage. And now it's insane because we just see all these people charging onto stage now. And Heather McDonald actually has a perfect solution. She said she's going to start giving out free tickets to cops to her show to provide security. She's so angry in this clip, and I don't blame her. I mean, it's a terrifying time. I think the more you see someone charge on stage, the more people get it in their heads that they can then go out and do the same thing. So it's terrifying.
Let me ask you guys both a question, because I've been thinking a lot about this. Part of going to comedy shows, especially small ones, this is at the Hollywood Bowl, so it's a big venue. This is sort of different.
And
I
it's
think they could have-
Chappelle.
and
It's got tons
Chappelle,
of security
and
and the whole thing. It's a little different.
But
yeah.
most comedy is very intimate. You
Yeah.
go to these sort of dark rooms. If you sit in the front row, you're literally feet from the performer. And part of comedy is the vibe of it. You don't really want armed sentries around a comedian. That they want to connect with the audience. So I don't know what the result of this will be. You want more security. You say that, but that will alter comedy, right?
No, not security, but Heather McDonald saying like, "Hey, police guys, show up, sit in your plain clothes in the front row, and then if something
Right.
goes down,
So
you get on
plainclothes
stage."
cops are the answer.
Plainclothes
Well,
cops.
she made the point, though, that obviously Chappelle can afford security and has all his buddies around and
Sure.
everything else. She doesn't have that luxury. And so the vast majority of comedians don't. You're going to have bouncers at the front of rooms, I guess. That's going to be
Is
the
the
answer.
result
I mean,
They
there's
chill the
there's
comedians
usually
if
almost
they-
always a bouncer, right? Like there's usually
Sure.
one or two guys in the club, whether it be even like the bartender that if things start to go south,
Right.
that'll drag people out. So there's always that, but it sounds like we really need to up it even more. I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, or comedians
saying,
start pulling punches, which makes for worse comedy overall if you have, you know, chilling of their speech. So this is a bad situation. I mean, it does seem to have lent to, you know, more.
I mean,
more
even
violence.
Chelsea Handler's trainer was joking yesterday, saying he was working out with her, and he made a video saying he was going to teach her that day how to take a tackle because it's like, you know,
Chappelle did a pretty good job for an older
to...
guy, and I think I would have been writhing in pain with my sciatica.
I don't like it when you use the word writhing.
Or sciatica, for that matter.
All right, so you want to should we move on?
Let's
Yeah.
move on.
All right, so let's move on. So the next look, this is the biggest story of the past 2 weeks. We had the Kardashian trial, now that's over. Blac Chyna lost, but the Johnny Depp case moves on, and now it's Amber's turn. So, you know, Amber has been giving her testimony over the last couple days. This is direct testimony. We anticipated that the shift in the mood was going to happen because Johnny Depp presented his affirmative case. Everyone started putting dollars in Johnny Depp tip jars, saying he was sort of unfairly maligned by Amber Heard. Well, now she's telling her whole tearful story, and her testimony has been pretty compelling. But Johnny's saying, look, we knew this was coming. She's been preparing to give the performance of her life in this trial. What his reps are saying is, look, she's giving her own biased account of this, and they want to basically temper what's happening because the testimony she's giving is devastating.
It's
very, very
explosive.
detailed. She's very emotional, and she is describing horrific acts or allegations of sexual abuse, lots and lots more violence than I think we've heard, and all at once, hitting her, putting liquor bottles in her. Sexually. I mean, it's horrific, and she's describing these scenes with such specificity that I think that lends to people believing it when you can recall something with that kind of specificity. Take it with a grain of salt. They are both actors, but that's where we are in the case, and I don't know where this sort of like ends up. I think she's described a lot of instances where witnesses were around. I think she's got to present this whole case and then bring up some of those people to verify it. But her witnesses are going to be disabled in the same way his witnesses are. His witnesses are his bodyguards who are still on the dole. Hers are going to be her friends who are going to say, of course, Johnny Depp hit her. So you're left with a mess. This case is just a mess.
So the subject to impeachment and cross-examination, obviously, it'll dent their story. But I think it's going to be very hard to walk away from Amber Heard's testimony with anything but a pretty clear picture that she was the victim of repeated verbal, psychological, and physical abuse and sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's going to be hard to get away from that. Now, I don't know where that ends things, right? Because he told very similar stories about her bananas antics and physical abuse and verbal abuse and emotional abuse during his case too.
And people were really starting to be kind of on his side, being like, oh my gosh, she's crazy. And we all said, just wait till she takes a stand. So it's whoever's telling their story. They're both so compelling that whoever's telling their story, but I don't know, Amber really, I mean, to watch any of her testimony, it's really powerful. And she's emotional at some points, but then she's also very calm. And she gives so many specific details that you're just, it's hard to watch.
We were watching this, and there's an icky feeling you get watching a case like this. There was something about OJ that was like, that's murder. We're used to sort of true crime stories of that ilk. This is just a window into a very toxic relationship. I think either side would say this was messed up. That was very volatile. They were very much in love, and then they were very much out of love. And regardless of if you believe the actual physical abuse allegations, this was messy. I mean, they're showing pictures of him drawing on the walls.
Oh, and fueled by drugs, which
Lots
is
of
I don't
drugs.
think, they probably don't even remember certain parts of it. It's wild.
And there's this sort of, belief that maybe it's just the jury's just going to wash their hands of the whole thing and say, neither of you get anything, send them on their way. And, you sort of got what you each deserved and wanted out of life. But I got to say, I think there's a deference to women who are the victims of abuse that might sort of lean in her favor a little bit here. I think it's hard for a jury to walk away and say she doesn't, and especially to the extent the jury is aware of this and has presented evidence of it, a huge financial disparity between the two of them. I mean, he's had his own financial woes, but the man is worth,
he owns islands in the Bahamas.
Right,
a lot of money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be, she may be in a position to actually, and this, look, part of her testimony is to get an ownership of herself and her story and get people to believe her, but it's all about money in the end, right? It's a civil lawsuit.
Yeah.
It's all about money.
After his direct testimony, there's a lot of talk about, is Johnny Depp going to get his career back? I think, and I've been on this position, I said it's going to sound good until she gets on the stand. And sure enough, it's hard to imagine a studio ever putting a lot of money behind a guy after this trial, right?
You can't unhear her testimony,
it.
even regardless of what the jury finds in favor of. You can't unhear his testimony. I would have a
sounds
hard
like a
time.
monster.
He does. I think they're both going to take a hit to their career after this, honestly, it's sad.
Although to Jason's point, I think she may be able to recover just, the testimony she's giving, and we have a small soundbite of it, but I don't think we should, everyone has heard it. She's very, very emotional. And I think she could recover as a sort of sympathetic figure. The odds on him recovering after these allegations, how can you see him in Pirates of the Caribbean, a Disney movie? It's impossible to imagine.
Yeah,
Maybe he'll do some eccentric B movies. I don't think he'll go away completely. He's too big of a star for that, but I don't think he's going to be in big budget movies anymore. I just don't think a studio will have him out on a press tour.
No.
It's just hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine. So to move on a little bit here, there have been few videos in the history of America that have resonated quite like the Kim K. Ray J sex tape, and it's the gift that keeps on giving to all of us.
Right up there with Mary Poppins.
Ray J and Kris Jenner seem to be at odds here about who negotiated the sex tape. They all acknowledge that they signed their rights off to the sex tape. We've heard a lot over the years about Kim K saying she's so victimized by the release of the sex tape. Well, she was there and she signed off on the release of the sex tape, as did Ray J. Now it's a dispute between Ray J and Kris as to who was actually the compelling force. Kris says she had nothing to do with the negotiations. Ray J says that's insanity. Of course she was there. What do you guys think?
This was crazy. So the first 3 episodes, or 2 episodes, right, of their Hulu show, the whole thing was based on Kanye went and got the hard drive back from Ray J, and she's crying and she's so happy. And then Ray J came out and said, all of this is a lie. There's actually a second sex tape, and he claims that she's had both tapes the entire time in her possession, in a Nike shoebox under her bed. Gets very specific about the location. So, and he's saying, oh, Kris negotiated the whole deal. We knew that the Kardashians would come back and say, no, Kris didn't. I'm inclined to believe Ray J, right? Like, she had to have a hand in it.
I'm not only inclined to believe Ray J, I don't understand at this point what Kris Jenner and Kim are doing, because the Kardashians are too big to fail. Look, the sex tape they brought it up to launch this show. They created a whole new news cycle about the sex tape by having this, Kanye scene rolling in a suitcase and her opening it and hugging the hard drive and so forth.
Also, they took the keyboard, which was like, you don't.
You don't need a keyboard. No need for a mouse to your hard drive.
You didn't need to pack the keyboard, but that's okay.
Wait a minute, all the data's not stored in the keyboard?
She's just clutching it as if it couldn't have been saved anywhere else over the past 25 years. It's ridiculous. It's an absurd scene.
Is it one of those keyboards that has a slope in the middle? Because that can be very valuable.
Like, there couldn't be a thumb drive of this sex tape in Ray J's pocket as he hands over this massive mainframe. It's absurd. The scene is absurd. But Kris, at this point, I don't know why she hasn't sort of leaned into I was the momager. I was the architect of this whole thing. To me, it couldn't tear down the edifice of the family at this point. The sex tape is the origin story of her daughter and the rise of the family, and it seems absurd. They're now straining
it's
credibility
such a
too much.
That they weren't all involved in it.
Obviously, the fact that we saw it in like glossy covers means that they participated in the release.
Right.
This wasn't an illicit tape. This was a tape you could buy from Vivid.
I mean, Vivid obviously would have gotten one of the cornerstones of privacy law is that when people are engaged in sexual acts, if you then distribute that tape, no matter how you got it, you are going to be liable to the people that are on the tape. She could have sued Vivid for hundreds of millions of dollars a long time ago for this, and she didn't, because of course she had signed away the rights. We all knew that.
We knew it, and that's why I don't understand why they don't just.
I think she wants to just keep up this appearance Kris does of like, she always tries to be, I'm a mom, but also I'm a businesswoman, but like first and foremost, I'm a mom. She does not want to break that.
But all I think is, first and foremost, you're a liar. That's what I think when I see these kind of like silly lies. Do you know what I mean? They're unnecessary. I won't think less of Kim Kardashian. I won't think less of Kris Jenner. If anything, I'll think more that wow, they really like sort of crafted this whole fame.
The thing that it's
building
really made clear to me that I wasn't aware of is that not everything you see on their TV show is real. And I'm just stunned by this.
I know. I really thought it was all so real.
I had no idea.
This is one of the more absurd ones. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So Chrishell Stause from Selling Sunset is officially over her ex-boss. She was dating Jason Oppenheim. And she's moved on with non-binary singer G-Spot. So she's
a wonderful name.
G-Flip.
I said G-Flip. I said G-Spot.
I didn't even notice. I was like, very well, his name is G-Spot. Go on.
I'm sorry. Their name is G-Flip.
It's going to be hard for me to recover after that.
I think we should just wrap up the set. Anyway, G-Flip is a non-binary singer from Australia and reportedly is actually living with Chrishell now. They were seen out partying at the Abbey, and Chrishell actually made a statement. She said, I recently have been spending a lot of time with someone that's very important to me. Their name is G-Flip. They're non-binary, so they go by they, them, and they're an extremely talented musician.
She, being Chrishell, has been involved in a couple very high-profile relationships, obviously, the most recent Jason Oppenheim, and it seems like a departure for her, not necessarily, obviously because she's now involved with a non-binary person, but also because they are an Australian kind of DJ, kind of underground scene. And Chrishell, to me, was always sort of the most...
She looks like Jasmine from
Chrishell, it's interesting because Chrishell really wanted to have a baby with Jason, and that was kind of the reason why they split, right? So it's just interesting because then she went and started dating a much younger, they're only 27, kind of like partying DJ.
Right. Mainstream. Chrishell's so mainstream to me. That's I guess where I was going with this. She seems so mainstream, gorgeous.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
married an all-American guy, then was with an all-American rich guy.
She seemed like such a mainstream person. This is such a left turn to non-mainstream.
But she looks really happy. I mean, they're out, they're partying. She met them doing their music video. I guess she flew to be in the video, and that's where they fell in love.
And if anybody's curious, G-Flip is gorgeous, by the way.
Gorgeous.
I mean, it's, you see
why
you
see this couple and you're like, oh my God, they are hot.
Well, this will be interesting though. So Chrishell is 40 and the whole season was about how much she wants to have a baby. G-Spot is 27 years old.
G-Flip.
Sorry.
Jesus.
We can't, I mean, why do we keep making...
Sorry. I did not mean that. G-Flip is 27 years old. I didn't mean that. I just looked right at Jason too. I locked eyes. G-Flip is 27 years old. Are they in the same part of life, interested in building a family? Because that's a huge thing to Chrishell. I mean, unless it was a storyline.
Now
right?
you're kind of being sexist, right? Because we see it all the time with men in Hollywood.
It's really true.
Where they date younger women.
Sexist.
Yeah.
I just can't catch a break on this segment, and I'd like to end it.
We're gonna start calling you D-Spot.
Oh, God.
All right, I think on that, can we wrap? Are we good?
Yeah.
We're good. All right, we got to get out of this podcast. Thanks very much for joining, everybody. What do we say at the end?
Catch this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, all the places you can get podcasts.
I bet that's not what we say.
Take care, everyone. Bye.